Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest and welcome to my pursuit of high quality companies that are not listed on the ASX. So we're looking primarily at the Tokyo Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and the London Stock Exchange. And in this particular video, we're focusing on a company that is listed on the London Stock Exchange called Games Workshop. And the main reasons I picked this company is because it satisfied my high quality screener that I do call a rule of 10. In fact, this is a London Stock Exchange list of companies, only 20, including AstraZeneca, Halma, Diploma, Auto Trader Group. And today we're talking about a company called Games Workshop. Their industry is leisure products. Market cap of this company is about 7 billion US dollars and pretty nice growth in revenue, and return versus capital and operating margin is pretty high as well. So that is the reason why I'm talking about this company today. And the other reason is because just the name, Games Workshop. I just thought, well, this might be an interesting company to look at. And I've been taken a little bit back by what they do. I had no idea. I just assumed they made video games, something like that. And this is actually their website called Warhammer. Still, not, it means nothing to me. I don't play video games or anything like that. And so I delved a little bit deeper. In fact, if you go to Wikipedia, Games Workshop website, well, not site, but Games Workshop Wikipedia site just mentions they're a manufacturer of miniature war games. I was like, okay, what is that? Best known products are Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, founded in 1975. So originally a manufacturer of wooden boards for games including backgammon, Mancala, Nine Men's, Morris, and Go. It later became importer of the US role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. And the main thing I want to know is, what the heck is miniature war games? And I just clicked on that, and that's what it is. So apparently this is quite popular, this sort of thing. Miniature war game. Is this like Dungeons and Dragons? I have no idea. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, never played anything like this in my life. But based off how big this company is, this must be a pretty big thing. Must be a pretty big thing and completely different than what I thought. But just because it's different than what I thought doesn't mean I have to stop looking further into this company. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is, well, originally I was going to give a brief rundown of what this company does, but I've already done that. But what I'll do is we'll go through the financial metrics of this company. Why has this company popped up on my high quality fiscal AI screener? And then we'll have a look at the chart. And sometimes a weekly chart of a company can tell all. Okay, so let's hop into fiscal AI, and let's see some of the financial metrics of this company. And in the company overview, just mentions they design, manufacture, distribute, and sell miniature figures and games in the UK, I suppose around the world. Yeah, around the world. They didn't have to say all these places. And then the last word they do mention is internationally. Just say everywhere. Operates in two segments, core and licensing. Okay, so focusing on Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000. I still have no idea what they do, what they are. I just assumed those were video games. Anyway, so the first thing I always do when I'm looking at a company really for the first time is revenue growth. Is the revenue growing? Is this space becoming more and more popular around the world? And based off the revenue growth, yes, maybe. Yes, we'll say yes. We'll say yes. Revenue growth over the last 5 years at 18%, 10 years 17.9%, 3 years 14.2%. So maybe you could argue the growth is starting to slow down, but not by a lot. Earnings per share growth, in fact, a little bit higher than revenue growth. Over the last 5 years, 22.2%, 10 years, 31.5%, 3 years, 15%. So again, you could say maybe the growth is slowing down, but still, all the growth is above 10%, and that's exactly what I want to see. Next thing I look at is margins. Gross margin 72%, operating margin 42.5%. Now, that's just a one-year sample. I do prefer to look at the longer term. This could be just a one-off. But I think we'll get some verification on that in a second as we look at the longer term history. But I do like those numbers. I do like the margins in this company. But again, the question becomes, as we look at the history, is this maintainable margins, or have they maintained these margins over the last 10 years? Return equity 59.5%, return invested capital 69.2%, 5-year average. That's really nice return on equity and return invested capital. Brilliant. Not much debt. In fact, they are Net cash by 87.4 million pounds. So really, debt's not an issue. Debt to equity is actually 0.2. They do actually have a fairly big yield, 3.2%, and payout ratio 87.4%, which is fairly high. That's much higher than I would have thought. Now, that could be based off maybe their profit was a little bit lower last year than what you would expect. Maybe there was a one-off. But if they can maintain this sort of growth and provide that sort of payout, dividend payout, that's actually quite impressive. Although if they've increased the dividend payout ratio, it could be a reason why the growth is starting to slow down. PE ratio of the company is 26.4. We'll have a look at the valuation metrics. That could be high, that could be low. I probably would like that to be a little bit lower just in case the growth is starting to slow down. Forward-looking PE ratio is at 29.9. So either the PE ratio or the profit this year was a little bit elevated, or the market is not expecting much growth, in fact, negative growth moving forward. Okay, so no real massive red flags so far when it comes to Games Workshop. I suppose my biggest question is how, there's no bulls or bears say. My biggest question is this miniature war game things a trend, or is it here for the forever? I have no idea, because it's the first time I've realized this exists. Okay, maybe that makes me sad. Okay, on to the financials. Always like to have a look at revenue, and we'll also have a look at income, operating margins, and gross margins. And I tend to just have a look at income and revenue first, just to see what the trend is exactly what I want to see. And I want to see both of these increasing through time. And we see that. No complaints when it comes to revenue. In fact, revenue has gone from 118 million to 617 million. So this space looks like it's becoming more and more popular. Funny enough, in 2020, it actually didn't grow all that much. And then it grew in 2021. So maybe this did become a little bit, no, maybe not. It does seem like it might be more of a social thing. And I suppose during COVID-19 lockdowns, social things were not that popular. If everyone has to come together to play these games, I have no idea. But nice growth in revenue over the last 10 years. And profits has gone from 13.5 million. Now, actually, what I might do is, this is probably in pounds. Yeah, I'm going to put this in US dollars. Yeah, there we go. It's not bad. Doesn't make much of a difference, but I just prefer to look at stuff in Australian dollars or US dollars. Now, profit's gone from 19.6 million to 265.6 million. So profit has just exploded. It's gone up 10, 15-fold. It's gone up 15-fold since 2016. Now, maybe it's on a low base. And definitely, if you compare the revenue growth, 19.2% per year, to the profit growth, 33.5% per year, this company has found a bit of operating leverage, you would think. You would think. And I think we can confirm that by looking at operating margins. And I think, and I'm just expecting, and I know the answer to this because I saw the growth in operating margins per year, we are going to see pretty good growth in operating margins. Now, gross profit margins, yeah, not much change. So I would say about 70, 72% is sort of the normal. On occasion, it falls below 70%. On occasion, it's above 70%. But over the last 10 years, it's ranging between 67% and 74%. So no growth in gross profit margins, but where we have seen increasing margins is operating margins. In fact, it's tripled from 14.3% to 42.5%. And the last year, gross margins were a record, no, operating margins were a record at 42.5%. How much further could they increase from here? No idea, but they aren't increasing at a great rate now, unlike what we saw back between 2016 and 18. That probably would have been a great time to buy this company, in hindsight. Okay, next thing I'm looking at is simply return on equity and return on invested capital, because those quality metrics were really impressive. And I do call these sort of metrics quality metrics, because if I had to choose just one metric to look at and to determine whether a company is high quality or not, I'd look at return on invested capital and then return on equity. These would be the sort of metrics you look at to really determine whether a company is high quality or not, if you had nothing else to choose from. Okay, so let's have a look at both of these, and I'll be shocked so if you go back to 2016, that was a low point, but still above 25%. And since then, both of these quality metrics have been sky high, well above 50%. So this is really impressive, very impressive quality metrics for this company, very efficient company. So they turn based off the equity this company has, they convert that to a lot of money, a lot of cash flow, a lot of profit. That's impressive. I would have thought this company or this sort of company could do that. But there you go. It just shows me I have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, now on to what I'm going to look at now is just valuation. So we'll just have a look at P/E ratio, free cash flow yield, EV to EBIT, and also EV to free cash flow. One thing I didn't look at was cash flow, and sometimes I will skirt this, but I'm going to do it now. And what I want to see is if there's been any sort of weird blips when it comes to cash flow, because that will or can distort EV to free cash flow and free cash flow yield. But if we have a look at the history of both these cash flows, there's nothing here. And this is exactly what you want to see, nice growth through time. In fact, both of these have almost gone up tenfold over the last 10 years. So great growth in this company. So definitely say why this company has hit my high quality filter just based off those two. Well, not just those two, but everything else as well. Now, P/E ratio. So remember the P/E ratio of this company was just below 30. So let's just have a look. Was it 26 or something? Let's just have a look at the history of this company. So currently it's at 26.74. And funny enough, in 2016, you could have bought this company a P/E ratio of like 12, it looks like. Yeah, 12, 10. So about 10. So there was no interest in this company back then. So the market was saying this is not a high quality company. And then the thoughts of the market has changed. Now, back in 2020, the P/E ratio of this company was at 39.40. I think that could be right. And generally, it's just, there's not much change. Hasn't been much change in the P/E ratio of this company over the last few years. So it's been in a range between 20 and 30. And currently at 26.74. So just based off this particular valuation metric, can't really say it's great value. Can't really say it's expensive. Okay, now on to free cash flow yield. So what we want to see here is it higher than usual, but not really, 4.2%. That's actually that's not that bad. That's not that bad for this type of company. It's been as high as 6% recently, as low as maybe 2 or just above 2% in 2021, as high as 15% in 2016. So really, the perception of this company has changed over the last 10 years. Maybe they've made some acquisitions, that sort of thing, and has changed the market's opinion. And EV to free cash flow, I'd assuming, yeah. So no surprise here. Low point was 2016, high point 2021, and right now it's in the middle. So again, neither expensive nor cheap. And finally, EV to EBIT. EV to EBIT. And again, yeah, exactly the same as P ratio and EV to free cash flow. So nothing much to really talk about with that. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to look at is just the chart. And this is the weekly chart. And what we'll do is we'll go back to, that's the daily. No, this is the weekly chart. We'll go back to 2016. And really, yeah, before 2016, no, this is exactly what I would have expected to see. The market just didn't care about this company at all. And you can just see that in the chart. There's nothing happening here. This is from 1998 to about 2016. Nothing happening. Share price going sideways. Share price at about 500, was that pence or something? I'm not sure how that wouldn't be pounds. Is that in pounds? We'll say 500 pounds or maybe pence. I have no idea. Anyway, so nothing. There's no interest in this company. And then all of a sudden in 2016-17, this company transformed into what we see today. And in fact, look at this chart. Look at this beautiful chart since then. A little bit of weakness in 2022, as we would have expected during the rising interest rate period. That was a time to buy this company. A bit of a dip in the COVID-19, close to 200-week moving average. And right now, share price well above. And in fact, it's almost at a record high at 16,000. And the 200-week moving average is about 11,000. So share price would have to drop about 33% before it hits that. This is a company that's looking really good value. So I think this sort of investment strategy, by calling Games Workshop a high-quality company and buy it when it gets to the 200-week moving average, could be a little bit of a good strategy. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to hit the 200-week moving average anytime soon. It could continue to go higher and stay well above that particular moving average for a long, long period of time. And that's sort of what we saw back between 2016 and 2022. Except for the COVID-19. So if you do truly think this is a high-quality company, I'll recommend diving a little bit more deeply into this company. Anyway, that's it for this look at Games Workshop. A bit of a surprise. I expected to see a video game manufacturer, that sort of thing. No, miniature war games. There you go. Or miniature war game figurines or whatever. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave those in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.